what was your first experiences with a relationship or with romance in, D&D or any tabletop RPG, whatever it happened to have been. And Diana, since you are our guest, if you'd like to start off for us.
Yeah, I love playing hot seat when I guest. It's kind of a hard say, mostly because I've been playing for like 10 years now, on and off, and it's always really short bursts of one-shots or small campaigns or campaigns that have been recorded and then died and things like that. Very first experience would have been, I think, my first time ever playing D&D. I don't know if this kind of doesn't count because it was a little bit backwards. This was back before safety tools were really a thing, as popular as they are now. This is back before people sat down and talked about it above the table. And I had started on this slope of my first ever D&D character having a romance with one of my friend's D&D characters. And it was fine. I'm sure it would have been fine, except since it was my first time role-playing really in any capacity, I went full throttle into it. And I just did not hide it at all. There was no subtlety. There was no subtle build-up. If someone had been reading it as a novel, it would have they put it down.
What was it, something that the two of you had planned out beforehand or just happened naturally?
No, that's why I say it was the opposite, because I think we had crushes on each other in real life, and then it bled into the game. And then after the game died, we dated in real life, and then we went back and we were like, oh, our characters should have properly dated instead of whatever the hell that was. And so I don't even know if that one counts. It was so short, honestly. That was a matter of, I want to say, less than 5 actual segments that we played.
Oh, that would have been quick then.
But what's the point of playing D&D if not to smooch your friends?
It's just a simulator, really.
It's really just a dating sim. In 5 more years, when no one goes on dates anymore, it's just going to be tabletop. That's all. It's going to be we're going to pretend to be in a relationship to see if we're compatible to be in a relationship.
Hey, if we can slay dragons together, everything else is gravy, right?
Yeah. It's the new, way cooler version of making yourself as a sim in The Sims and then your crush as a sim in The Sims and then see what happens.
All right, guilty of doing that, by the way. Yeah,
I used to always, for me, because I was never really The Sims, but in the Final Fantasies RPGs, the main character will always be myself, and then the other characters are my friends, and the main love interest is the crush. So sometimes I'll go back to games from 10 years ago and be reminded of who I named the characters after.
Man,
it's kind of like when you see a Facebook post from 10 years ago and you go, oh no, I can't believe I said that out loud. Hate that.
Yeah.
Oh. So my first one actually involves Callie. Before we do that, Callie, I actually want to know what your first experience with relationships was.
My first one was in a Song of Ice and Fire game that I was playing in. And my character ended up
going to end well if it was a Game of Thrones game.
It ended up weird, I would say. Sarah's character and my character, she was a priestess, and my character was supposed to be of the cloth and shouldn't have been able to go up, but he had a huge crush on her. And then he became she during the course of the game because, of course, I'm trans, so I want all my trans allegories. And they ended up having this forbidden romance, which was great because Sarah and I weren't dating at the time and we were both dating someone else. But, it was kind of foretelling the future because now Sarah and I are married. So, it worked out.
Sweet.
But that was my first time doing a real romance in a game.
All right. Well, spoilers. Mine doesn't end with the two of us getting together.
No, no, it doesn't.
This was actually recently in the past, 3-ish years maybe. The two of us were in a campaign together, and she had made her character, I had made my character, which was a changeling with all sorts of emotional issues and not being able to connect with people, but understanding people and not knowing how to bridge or use that information. And because we were streaming it, we have a shared audience who, for the longest time, since podcasts before this, would always fanfic ship our characters together for some reason. And
there were a lot of people in our community, when we were doing Limit Break Radio, who shipped you and me together. That was weird.
Yeah, so they started doing that with the characters, and it kind of just so happened to end up that way. And so there was a lot of fumbling. My
lot of
character
will they, won't they.
was a disaster in every sense of the word. To the point where the first time when her character said "I love you" to my character, it surprised both of us.
Really?
And her reply was my reply, which was, "Yup."
No way.
And, oh, there's a clip of it out there, and
Yeah.
you can see my soul leave my body as I go, "I love you, Zana," and she goes, "Yup," and that was the end of the scene.
Yep.
Oh.
No,
Whoa, was it ever addressed?
It got better.
It was,
well,
yes.
because from there we then had to go and fight the sun god who was trying to destroy the world, and we, beat him and used a wish of divinity. Blah 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 blah. Fast forward
Classic.
3 years, Zana found her comatose, nursed her back to health, and the first thing she said when she woke up was, "I'm sorry, I love you too."
Oh.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
It was
So
really
so
sweet.
yeah. Overall, I think it worked out. And so as I've been thinking about this, though, so my next question after that was, how has your, I guess, opinion, perception, or your thoughts of romances in tabletop RPGs, how have they changed since then?
Oh man, there's
Yeah.
a lot to say here. I mean, obviously now I'm hyper aware of situations where people are using TTRPGs as a stand-in for their actual feelings or as like a simulator or something like that, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to stare directly into the camera when I say this. I'm so sorry for audio-only listeners. If it's consensual and two-sided, oh my God. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. I'd be
Yes,
swearing
you
up
can.
and down. Okay, thank fucking God. Please, for the love of fucking God. Do not make your character romance someone else's character just because you have a crush on them in real life and they are wildly unaware of it. It is not cool. It can go horribly wrong. It often does go horribly wrong.
Yep.
So now I have rules in my games where, as a DM and as a player, part of my Session Zero character sheet, Session Zero like document, checklist, things like that, is people have to state right off the bat whether or not they are okay with PC to NPC romances. PC to PC romances and NPC, they can't help. They're going to get that regardless. And they can change that answer at any time. It's a very flexible Session Zero document. And specifically with NPC to PC romances, I always tell my players, like, if I'm the DM and I'm playing an NPC, I'm not going to hit on you. You have to initiate it, and then you have to tell me above the table that this is actually what you want, and then we'll work out story beats. Like, we are going to plan this and make sure you are actually cool with what it could potentially look like. We're going to think it out fully, and I need your, like, express consent. Same with PC to PC. Like, if you're planning on doing something in-game with someone, both those people have to come up to me individually, if I'm the DM, and state their intention to do that. And I want to emphasize individually, too. I don't want them to come to me together. I mean, they can, but I also need to hear it from them when they're not in the same room, just to be extra sure that there's nothing weird going on there. Because I've had issues with that in the past where some wildly inappropriate match has happened, and it was very clearly an indicator of someone's real life feelings that were also wildly inappropriate. So